Hello again, everybody, and welcome inside the Howitzer and Buzzsaw Show. I am George the Howitzer Gerbo.
And I am Mike, the Buzzsaw Ostie.
Sports talk back with you as a lot of moving parts start falling into place in the worlds of baseball and football, which we will get to. Trade deadline for baseball, Mike. Trade always deadline, always always trade season in the NFL. As some players express their disapproval and potentially want to move into other locales, and some don't. So we'll catch up on all of that on this edition of the Howitzer and Buzzsaw Show. How are you? Happy summer as you love and enjoy.
Happy summer, except for my summer's pretty much over. As we linger into August, football camp begins, and I become very busy. So summer pretty much feels like it's ending, even though the weather is still cooperating, still getting to a pool every now and then. But as everyone probably knows who follows me anywhere now, I am trying to raise a toddler and a newborn simultaneously. And I will probably refer to the summer of 2025 as the lost summer.
Oh wow!
For Mike Ostie, unfortunately, a couple times on the golf course, a lot of crying, feeding, burping a baby, putting babies to sleep. Not able to really do as much because of the babies. Love the babies, love the babies. Birthday party for Mila. She currently is in the running for Toddler of the Year. If anybody would like to vote, if anyone would like to vote, she is now advanced to round 2. She is in the running right now, and she is still right now, in line to advance yet again. But in the running for Toddler of the Year, and I do feel, in my very biased and not humble opinion at all, that she is the Toddler of the Year. I don't know who else would compete with her personality, her cuteness, her intelligence. She has the total package. So she should be toddler. Would appreciate. Didn't get to golf, didn't get to swim, didn't get to go on long walks that I like to do. Didn't get to do that as much unless my walk consists of a long walk with a stroller. That are those can be nice. Kind of puts the baby to sleep. But no, this summer's basically over now, and I'm gonna hopefully get maybe more of a relaxing summer next year. Maybe. We'll see.
Mike's summer is over. I, of course, am here to remind you that summer lasts until late September. Don't let these kids out
officially
here
it does
going back to school fool you, America.
Yes.
So
yeah. No, it shouldn't be over now. It doesn't begin officially until the end of June, so it certainly has to continue on now. But it doesn't feel like it's the same. Let's put it that way. It doesn't feel like it's the same. But I will digress.
Speaking of someone whose summer may be over, the Minnesota Twins, which we'll get to here in just a moment. A reminder that you can find us wherever you get your podcast. Search Howitzer in your favorite podcast app. That includes Spotify, TuneIn, Google, and more. Apple, just search Howitzer wherever you find us. And also a shout out to the Kellen B. Conley, B. his music that you hear right here each and every time on the HBS.
Yeah.
Check out his work, hyphennation.com.
Kellen still is bringing you the championship tunes, the intro, the montage of the HBS here, the championship melody to get this show running. And yeah, you mentioned Minnesota. I don't even know if that's where the death of Major League Baseball currently lives, because I think I live in that city in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Yeah, I think right now I'm certainly in the heartbeat of the death of a franchise if it didn't get killed years ago. I think this summer, this trade deadline really drove that final nail in the coffin for anyone who wanted to be optimistic. And yeah, obviously the Pittsburgh Pirates decided to sell again and do it in worse fashion than normal. So we will talk about that for sure. But as the NFL also always goes, they never want to not have drama and not be a headline story and not be a part of conversation right now, as NFL training camps are ramped up, college football camps are ramped up. We'll probably talk about that more on future shows. And then you do get the fall as the best part of a sports calendar, even though I will definitely miss the summer and the warmth. So we look forward to at least.
In Major League Baseball, as Mike mentioned, trade deadline is come and gone. arguably, and one of the reasons we start here, arguably the most active trade deadline in the MLB in at least a decade, if not prior to that.
All right, I thought you were about to go like in history because I was
No,
gonna say, I mean,
the '90s had some good ones,
we,
but like
yeah, right. There's been
in this newer era, in this post rule change era, in this pitch clock era, whatever you want to kind of term it here,
I guess.
since the pandemic, the pieces going back and forth, and like some name guys going back and forth. Probably the biggest component of it. I mentioned the Twins. The Twins have somehow still able to field a baseball team this weekend in Cleveland against my Guardians, even after jettisoning 10 different people, it seems like, over the last week. The biggest piece of those is Carlos Correa.
They saved a lot of money. Saved a lot of money over there in Minnesota.
Yeah.
A lot of salary dumps, but yeah.
Saved a lot of money, getting rid of a lot of money. Yeah. Correa goes back to Houston, the place he won the World Series in 2017. Nice, as he put it, into his potential end to his career down there, to maybe recapture what they had back then. Of course, I was the trash banging scandalaire, so make of that what you would like. 11 Twins end up leaving Minnesota. Johan Duran goes to Philadelphia, Griffin Jacks to Tampa. In addition to Correa, those were the big names. The Pirates, as Mike mentioned, just another team that got rid of some players, but also just direction-wise feels like a rudderless ship, to use a boat metaphor, because they're pirates. It wasn't intentional, but David Bednar, I'm less upset with that than some people. He goes to the Yankees. They get a guy back.
You know, he's from Pittsburgh, though?
He's on the icy Lycans. He's from
Pittsburgh.
Well,
I mean, did you know? Because did you know he's from Pittsburgh? Because
I didn't know he's from Pittsburgh.
That he's from here. It was the entire. That's the phrase of the David Bednar tenure. Is he's from here. He's from here. He's from Pittsburgh, and he's going to play for the Yankees.
We'll get into the Bednar, we'll get into the Bednar thing. The funny thing for me is that if you had said to people 2 years ago, when they sent him down to Indianapolis, that they're trading David Bednar, people would have thrown a parade for it. And now, just because suddenly he kind of got good again, or at least, serviceable in what people remember, and specifically having team control, which is something we'll hit on here in a minute. They did, the Pirates did the same thing with Bailey Falter. They got two guys that have multiple years. Key Brian Hayes as well, but you could argue that that didn't pan out the way the Pirates thought. But three guys who the team had under control, which is what a small market or a cheap team like the Pirates kind of strives for, and they got rid of those guys and kept some guys that don't have the control. And I want to throw out there two other teams out west. Of course, the Seattle Mariners. Good Lord. Good on them. They're trying to make the playoffs for the first time in a generation. And they add Josh Naylor a few days before the deadline. Big move, in my opinion. A guy that Cleveland traded to Arizona, and he was on a hot tear starting the season and has performed well for the Diamondbacks this year. And then he goes to Seattle and continues to.
They were in 2022. I thought so. I double checked myself. So it's not you skipped the first in a generation. You got
the first time that they feel like they can actually do something.
100%. I just remember off the top of my head. I was like, a couple of years ago they did actually crawl in there.
Yeah,
but they won a wild card game. But go ahead. Yeah.
They in the series
they beat Toronto in the wild card, and then they lost to the Astros.
Yeah. Feels like
prior to that, you are correct.
Feel like they missed an opportunity last year, but for Mariner fans, this kind of feels like a run that they can work with. Eugenio Suarez also goes to Seattle. It's a big boost to add to Cal Raleigh, who's the Major League home run leader, over 40 already.
Yep.
And then what H.A. Preller, who is kind of, every if you're a baseball fan or you love trading or you love fantasy or whatever, AJ Preller is kind of doing that in San Diego. Mason Miller goes down the California coast from Sacramento, Oakland to San Diego. JP Sears also joins the Padres. Ryan O'Hearn comes in, Ramon Laureano. They didn't trade Dylan Cease, who was going to be a trade chip. So there's a lot of, and the Padres have been a team too, where you thought like last year they were going to be one of the ones to go toe to toe and in the playoffs with the Dodgers, and they were unable to overcome Los Angeles. So it's looking good for those teams out west. Sad times in Minnesota, sad times in Pittsburgh. Your thoughts, if you want to start with Pittsburgh, on just kind of how this breaks down. Not that the Pirates were in any kind of contention, but like just very stereotypical Pirates where they sold the guys that you could have held on to and then held on to the guys that you should have sold. Such as Tommy Pham, who finally got hot again and has been traded seemingly for the last, 7 years. I'm exaggerating, but feels like every year at the deadline he's been traded to somebody, St. Louis, the White Sox, Pittsburgh, whatever. He's not around after the season. They could have traded him. And so instead they trade guys that they had club control over, and it doesn't really make much sense.
Yeah. So before I fully get to the Pirates, though, and rant on the Pirates, because they deserve it, I will give a winner award. I think you mentioned the Mariners trying to really go for it, and this is the first time in a while they're really going for it. Even when they made the playoffs a few years ago, they didn't even do that much at the deadline. They got in. They weren't really going to go far. Obviously, back in the Ichiro, Griffey, Edgar Martinez days, they were a perennial playoff team, but they ran into either Cleveland or the Yankees, and they couldn't actually get over the hump and win a pennant. And then after that, they really never fully tried. They never really bought in, even when they had Ichiro for all those years. And you could argue that this is almost the first time in recorded Mariners history, as insane as that sounds, that they are truly bought in, and it looks like they're trying to win a championship, because even the Griffey years, George, after the 95 series where they beat the Yankees, he ran around the bases, and it's an iconic clip forever. Tino Martinez was on that team. They then traded him to the team they just beat in the Yankees, and he then won the World War II to the Yankees the next year, was a part of a dynasty. They basically were selling off that team besides Griffey, and they promoted A-Rod, who was at that time playing just a few games and just kind of coming up for a cup of coffee after being in the minors in that 95 season. So they benefited off of promoting young talent and went cheap and was like, okay, this player's going to come up. I don't have to spend that much money, and I'll get rid of somebody that I may have to pay, when there was still no cap back then either. And in Seattle, it's not a Pittsburgh or Minnesota. I've always thought for many years that it was very bizarre that Seattle Mariners operated like a small market. That is not a small market. They could spend more, and yet they never did. So it is nice to see them fully going in. So kudos to them. Give them a winner's award. And the other one I want to give before I fully get into these losers is also another franchise that does have championships, but it's been a long time since we were very young. They also very rarely go for it. They very rarely are a true contender, even when they do get in. And yet now it looks like not only are they trying to lock up a division title in a very tough division in the American League East, but maybe be a favorite to win the pennant in the AL, and that's the Toronto Blue Jays. They're really going for it now. And sometimes they do it in the offseason, but they're now going forward through the season at the deadline. And despite controversy and arguing contracts with Vladimir Guerrero and company, they're winning. They're beating really good teams, and they were buyers. And they also were able to bring in players that maybe others thought were cast-offs. Like, they're willing to take risks now. Bieber being one. They're just, I'm going to take a risk, and I'm going to try to do this because we want to get another arm, a pitcher that's been great before, and we're going to try to actually win some series and advance. That's what they're doing right now, and they should, based on what's going on in the division. The Yankees look very vulnerable. Judge is not healthy. They've beaten up on the Tigers, who've lost a lot in the last couple of weeks despite having a great record. Honestly, George, if you have to tell me right now who is your American League pennant favorite, this may sound crazy off of history, but you could argue Seattle and Toronto, and it wouldn't sound insane. Yeah. And they also bought at the deadline. So kudos to those franchises for doing that. Now, I will get to the Pittsburgh Pirates, where I live. I will get to the Pittsburgh Pirates now, where I live, the franchise that I have covered before, that I still, am part of the media scene here. And while they didn't give up the total amount of players as Minnesota, which is why maybe you opened with, and some could argue that Minnesota is the number one loser, or it's worse for their fans, etc. It was even more of a fire sale for Minnesota in totality. If you want to argue that, that's fine, but I'm not going to worry about that right now because nothing surprising with Minnesota. They've also had certainly more success in the last 20 years than Pittsburgh. The issue for the Pirates is not that they even were sellers. Okay, they're way out of the race, almost 20 games out. No one thinks they're going to turn it on despite firing Shelton and now having Don Kelly there. And Don Kelly's really popular in Pittsburgh. Most people want him to be the full-time manager, but they're, Donnie from Pittsburgh. Like that's what people want. He's a hometown kid. But they're not going anywhere this year. All that he's done is maybe got rid of most of the Sports Center errors. Like they're not made fun of as much, but they're not winning games on a regular basis. They've had a very weird season, actually. They are the first team in Major League Baseball history to go back-to-back with one series. They blank an opponent and shut them out for 3 straight, and they get shut out in the next series. So 6 games where they do it once, they get it done to them next. And that's kind of been the story. They've been able to dominate good teams, perform against the Tigers, Cardinals, teams like that, and then the White Sox sweep them. So they're just one of those teams. Paul Skeens is starting the All-Star game. He's a Cy Young contender. He deserves it. He has an ERA, I believe right now it's .67 as he stands in his last so many starts. That's where it was in July as we now move the calendar. And he's still getting his love, but obviously they're not winning and they can't get wins for him. He's below 500. They're not giving him run support. That's been the year for Pittsburgh. So it's not so much that they were sellers yet again. That shouldn't surprise anybody. That shouldn't really be the crux of the issue. The issue is kind of what you alluded to, and they could have went one step further. I thought they were going to, but they traded players who have years, and I mean plural years, the S is on the end, left on their deal. This is not players with 1 year left and okay, they're going to walk or the Pirates aren't winning. Why pay when you're already 20 games out? Okay, you do the deal now, try to get some value, try to get some prospects, maybe agree that you're going through another 5-year rebuild despite having Skeens there. They won't admit to that, but it looks like now that's what they're advertising and what they're doing, whether Cherington's back or not. However, they did get rid of players who had multiple years left, and that's the biggest issue. There should not have been a rush to trade certain players if they had multiple years left. Now, one player they did not move that I thought they were going to move, that I wrote about and told them not to move, and they didn't, and that's Mitch Keller. He's clearly their number 2. He's not winning either, but his ERA is below 4. He has 100 strikeouts and 120 innings when I wrote that article. He's been their stabilizing force on the mound, whose name is not Paul Skeens, even though they can't give him run support either. And he has years left. He's locked up until 2029. I thought they were going to move him because many teams wanted him. He would have probably got them value, but they did not. And they shouldn't be trading players, George, with 2 to 3 years left. I get with 1 year, I can maybe see with 2 years, but 2 to 3 years left, which they did do, that's a major deal. Secondarily, and just as important, in the past, as much as it's always annoying that the Pirates are perpetual sellers, and since that spurt from 2013 to 15, even when they broke up that team that still won 90 games, and then they decided to trade everybody off and get rid of Garrett Cole and let him go and all of that. They just won 90 games and they quit that run way too early and didn't really go all in during that window, despite kind of still winning and getting some players that were low rent people, but they didn't fully buy at that point and certainly ended it too soon. But since then, they've obviously been perennial sellers. But it's not so much that they're sellers. It's not even so much now that they do this where they're getting rid of players with years left, as bad as that is. But at least in the past, they would operate where, okay, you have a star, you cultivate somebody, then you do get rid of them, but at least they would bring in a top prospect or two, and they would then build it up, and then, okay, you can kind of do the car wash of that, even though it's annoying and they're not going to go anywhere. At least you get a top prospect in the deal. This summer, they got, in the Bednar deal, for example, they got the Yankees' 14th prospect, their 8th prospect. This is a Yankees team that wanted another reliever that's trying to win a pennant, that has pressure on them, that really wanted Bednar. And he had shown something more recently than what he was the last couple of years, where he kind of floundered. He had been great even several years back, so there is something there that could be cultivated again. And that's all you get. They're not even getting the top prospects, so they're
Mhm.
not even operating like a Minnesota Twins or those small market teams or the Athletics, where okay, you can't keep your star and your window's very small and you rarely go all in and the fans are frustrated, but you at least bring in prospect to do the same thing over again for the next rebuild. This time, they got rid of guys with years left on their deal. They didn't bring in the top prospects. And George, the reason why the Pirates are the biggest loser above Minnesota, you could argue the Pirates being the biggest loser in 2025 at this deadline is one of the biggest loser deadlines in Major League Baseball history. And not only for everything that I've already said about this deadline, but it's the fact that they have Paul Skeens, who was on a Hall of Fame pace, that had a historic rookie season, that has started the All-Star game each of his 2 years in Major League Baseball, that is a legit Cy Young contender right now, could easily win the damn thing despite the Pirates being so bad, that has an ERA consistently below 2, that doesn't get wins because they don't give him run support, but he loses these games 2-1, 1-0. He's getting it done. He's striking people out. He's right up there with career strikeouts through so many starts earlier in his career. And that's a type of player that even when you're a small market, that's the type of player that you can maybe go all in for. Or even if you don't want to go all in, you at least don't do a fire sale. You at least don't trade players with years left. You at least don't worry about the 15th ranked prospect on somebody else's team. And you try to get him some offense in the offseason. But when you don't do that as bad as it was, you don't then also implode it for the next year in the middle of one season as bad as this has been. Paul Skeens is clearly going to leave when his deal is up. He's going to go to the Dodgers or somewhere to help his personal fame with Livy Dunn. We all know it. It's going to happen. And he won't request a trade because he's the nicest guy in the city. He really is. He's a pro's pro. However, my advice to him is to go right now to the Pirates and say, this offseason, I'll finish out the year and win a Cy for you. But this offseason, get me the hell out of here. I don't want to wait 2 more years. And the issue, again, is if you're not going to move him, as they're not going to, then if you're ever going to worry about trying, the word is trying to win a little bit more, either keep guys or add or try, it's when you have Skeens. George, I get, the COVID year, the Pirates had nobody on the roster. Brian Reynolds was the only star. Okay, why spend money? I even defended them then. A $30 million payroll, whatever. It doesn't matter. It could even be less. They're not going to win. Why spend money? But when you have Paul Skeens here in 2025, this is the time to spend money. The small market teams that have won over the last 20 to 30 years, because they have won more than Pittsburgh, even though the system is all effed up. The Royals got multiple pennants. The Rays got multiple pennants. The Athletics have been in the playoffs multiple times. The aforementioned Minnesota Twins have been in the playoffs multiple times. The Cincinnati Reds have been in the playoffs multiple times, and they have a more recent championship as they're about to win and try to win and get something going now yet again. Then Pittsburgh, even though it's been a while for them. Milwaukee has been a perennial contender despite kind of being a small market. We know what the Cardinals do, even though they're a baseball hotbed. We can keep going on and on and on. I mean, Cleveland, a little bigger market, but it's not like they're the Yankees here, and they are a perennial contender and have been in World Series, etc. And the Pirates have that 13 to 15 run, and then besides that, it's back with Bonds where they couldn't win a series when there only was the one series. They couldn't get a pennant out of it. And then, prior to that, we're going into the Dave Parker We Are Family team, but it's just been so rough of my generation. And you have Skeens. Part of why those small market teams have won more, or when they won more, especially Kansas City, because that's the blueprint. They literally went in the red. They lost money and they overpaid for guys. They overpaid. James Shields and others. He was overpaid, but they got something out of those guys and they decided, okay, we have a window. We're going to overpay. We're going to screw ourselves later. It'll hurt us financially a little bit, but we want to win. Nutting and the Pirates don't care. They don't want to win. They don't want to do that. No matter what reporting you may hear, they're still making money. They've been making money most years. They're going to keep making money. They're not, moribund franchise by any means. I even heard from a colleague that they make so much money and Nutting makes so much money that he already profits for his personal wallet before the season even gets underway. So they are fine. He is fine. And they have Skeens and do nothing for him. That is the biggest problem of all, that if you're ever going to spend this is the time to do it. And if you're not, you might as well trade Skeens. What is the point of keeping him? That's actually my question to segue in. What is the point of keeping Skeens for a couple more years if you're admittedly not going to try to win? And that is now where the Pirates are and what they are screaming to everybody. There's no more lying or pussyfooting. They clearly do not want to even try to get better and improve and win during this window with or without Skeens. Clearly.
They also, I was having this conversation with a friend, and not that the Pirates were anywhere near the realm of contention, but that as the, the middle of the last decade, the 2015, 14, 15, 16 era, they supplemented the roster with, the old veteran guys kind of on their way out, but maybe had a little bit left. The AJ Burnett's,
That's what I'm saying.
Russell Martins,
Right. Yeah.
and just not even a whiff of that.
They got lucky with those guys. They did. It's not like they went all in and got
a couple seasons ago. I think it's 3 seasons ago now. They kind of did it with Carlos Santana, and he still had a little bit of pop in his bat. And I think then he ended up in Minnesota. He's in Cleveland this year and not doing well at all. So the Pirates got him then at that right, moment in time. But just not even like a whiff of, hey, we're going to bring in journeyman guy. I guess you could say it with Kutch, but Kutch is different because he started, that's the organization he started with.
I'm sure that's what they would say, that he's
Pittsburgh
that
Pirates.
guy.
He'll be a Pittsburgh Pirates Hall of Famer and a legend in that stadium and that place for a long time. But just overall, the overarching thing is there's no, because where's Kutch is a leader, but then like after that, man, they've just swung and missed on Gregory Polanco, the guy that comes to mind, was next big thing, blah, blah, blah. Henry Davis.
Adam Frazier, they brought him back. I mean, that's
he could catch and play first base, and now we think he can do neither. And he was a top draft pick. So it's there's a culture of mismanagement.
Key Brian Hayes is also the one too, because that was a symbolic player. He was the first face of this rebuild
signing. Actually committed money to him.
He was there before O'Neal Cruz, certainly before Paul Skeens. Him and Mitch Keller are right around the same time frame and when they came aboard. He was supposed to be that face of the franchise for this rebuild. He kind of got there when Cherington got there. He got a solid big deal at that time, and Cherington said a lot of big things like he's going to be our next face of this franchise for this era. They give him up for, not all that much. Some people like the deal, some others don't. I don't think it's that great, but they don't get enough nearly for somebody who was supposed to be the face of your franchise. Now, you could argue in the Pirates' defense, and this is true, Hayes certainly disappointed from what he was supposed to be when he got there. He's not nearly been that, but this is how it always works for the Pirates, and this is their story. Hayes hit 2 home runs in 100 games on the nose for the Pirates this year. Game 1 with the Reds, he goes yard. You can't make this up. You cannot make this up. He also had an error, which is funny because he's a great defensive player, but you cannot make this up. There is nothing in me that does not believe that Hayes, Bednar, whoever is going to have a great run. George, it's almost a question of which now former Pirate is going to end up with a game-winning hit to win a postseason series, is going to end up with a game-winning hit to send somebody to the playoffs and get a wild card spot, is going to pitch a critical inning late in a postseason series to lock something up. Somehow Bednar is going to get a critical save because someone else is going to get hurt and he's going to get in there, or he'll get a great hold, or he'll end up with a strikeout in a man versus man matchup that'll go down in postseason lore. Those things are going to happen because they always do to the Pirates cast-offs. And yes, and this is what they sometimes try to pivot into. All of that history is not the fault of Ben Cherington. All of that history is not even the fault of Bob Nutting. That's been going on prior to them. Certainly prior to Ben Cherington, who had proven he can win when he has money with the Red Sox. Problem is, he took on this challenge. He knew the money wouldn't be there. He knew he couldn't fix. When he won his World Series, George, he took over a last-place team and then spent a lot of money, and they won. You can't do that with Pittsburgh. The system is broken. It is. That you don't have a situation where a small market team can quickly fix a problem like, say, the Red Sox, Yankees, Dodgers. If they make a mistake, and they have for sure, they then can quickly fix it by spending money. You cannot do that with the Pirates. However, the people that think all of a sudden, if you have a salary cap, the Pirates would all of a sudden become this perennial contender, like say the Penguins did. It allowed the Penguins to contend year after year once they kind of got a cap system in the NHL, whereas in that prior generation, that wasn't the case for Pittsburgh. That's not going to be the case for the Pirates.
It still requires a front office with skill, and this front office hasn't had it going back to Cam Bonifay.
Not even just skill. It's also front office with interest. I don't even think if you get a salary cap in, the Pirates would be any different, because number one, if you get a cap, you need to have a floor. They would still struggle to worry about the floor. And then they still would not want to spend enough because they're worried about their own bottom line, and Nutting's worried about his own pocket more than trying to win. And if that is your mentality, whether you have Skeens or not, especially when Skeens is there doing what he's doing, and that is still your mentality, it doesn't matter whether there's a cap or not. They're not near to where a cap would be. It's not like they need to save money I heard that. This actually was from the Pirates. They shed salary, I think was the phrasing. There's no cap. What are you shedding it for? There's no limit of what you could spend. You could choose to spend more because you have Paul Skeens. There is no reason to shed money. You can shed it if you're broke and you don't want to lose money, like Minnesota. They're having problems financially. George, Nutting is not broke. Not broke. This is, again, I think the Pirate situation is worse than Minnesota. Minnesota is broke. They had to save money because they don't have the money. Bob Nutting has the money. He could spend more. He could. And I think the real issue is, you look at the Cincinnati Reds who acquire Ke'Bryan Hayes. Mm-hmm. They were not a contender a few years ago. They now have since regrouped and built up their farm. They got a Hall of Fame manager in Francona to come aboard. Now they're buying. It's not like they're winning 90-plus games every year, but they are going to be a contender that gives a damn and tries. They're in a similar size market to Pittsburgh, a similar historic franchise. They've had the similar shortcomings. Their ownership has never been sound either. Even when they won a World Series, they had a racist owner who everyone hated. But yet, they go for it when they can. And if Francona walks in the door and says, I'm not going to let you be a seller, you got to buy, they do it. That doesn't happen.
They weren't a contender going into this year either. And then,
well, sure, yeah. And their farm system was better.
Hunter Green started playing well. We saw Ellie De La Cruz, continued his ascendancy in this game, and still young in the talent that he brings. And then it was an organization that was like kind of moving through the end of the Joey Votto era, and it's like, well, the Reds are nowhere, and they fired their manager, and then they get Tito to come out or retire from his 1-year retirement in Arizona, and they're spurred into the wild card race. The
Pirates weren't even in play for Francona because they had Shelton for a year longer than they probably should have had Shelton. So that comes, their run was even prior to the Pirates. 2010 we're talking about with Votto. That's further back than the 2015 team with Pittsburgh, and yet they have managed to crawl themselves out of mediocrity as a small market and convince a guy like Francona to come aboard by the moves that they're making, whether it be building up the farm or now making moves to buy. And again, it's not like they're bringing in a Hall of Famer. They're bringing in Ke'Bryan Hayes, who is a talented player, but has certainly struggled in recent years and has been a little bit of a disappointment. But they're buying, and they're not shedding salary. They're not scared to spend some money. That's part of it too. So these similar small market franchises, the Reds now, Milwaukee now, the Royals.
Milwaukee's a good example.
10 years ago, again, when the Royals won those back-to-back pennants.
Craig, their manager just left to go manage the Cubs this year in a bit of a stab you in the back, and they're currently the best team in baseball.
And he stabbed them in the back as a former Brewer great, and he was like, no, I'd rather do the Cubs thing.
Manager left to go an hour south of Chicago, and the Brewers are the leading the standings. And to your point, like it's just a bare minimum of competency, because as you've I think Pirate fans, of course, like, oh, a team to be, it was no winning seasons for so long that you're just looking for something that's in the realm of interesting. Can you be interesting? So many years of our lives, the Pirates weren't interesting. Now, July, past June, even in some seasons,
like camp, it's over in Pittsburgh.
They just weren't interesting or relevant. And then the Penguins came along and started playing hockey into June a bunch of seasons and took all of that shine off of them too, or whatever was left. If they could just remain relevant into late August, is all you'd need. They've had only 3 sellouts this year. You and I were at one of them. It was opening day it was the Paul Skeens bobblehead day, and it was Mac Miller bobblehead day, and they've given us vouchers for that Paul Skeens thing, and still no way that we're ever going to get the bobblehead. So I'm not
trying to get that Skeens bobblehead.
Mike asked me like every month, like, hey, I was like, I got an email that says, hey, here's an email, here's your voucher, and I got it's like, promise that may not be delivered, just like the team. I don't know, but
I'd like to be over under, how many days and the season left until we actually get that bobblehead, or do you think it's more likely I get the bobblehead before or after I get the brick that they threw in the trash that I had from
game was in May, early May.
So it's not only that's another thing. It's not even so much because obviously the defense can be, if you want to compare to the Pittsburgh teams, the Penguins were able to have their turnaround because a salary cap was put in place and there was a lockout to get there, which is what some Pirate fans want to occur in Major League Baseball. I do contend that even if there is a cap, the Pirates would still lose because the owner doesn't want to win. Unlike Lemieux at the time, who was, okay, you put a cap in place, Illich and the Red Wings can no longer spend $40 million more than me. Now it's even, and I'm willing to lose money out of my personal wallet for this team to win. That is what had to occur at one point in hockey. That's not going to be something that Nutting wants to do. So you could argue that, okay, the Steelers and Penguins play in better systems that are more fair, but the issue is the Nutting regime has been marred with not only horrible decisions and a lack of interest in winning, which this season really screams for you, but also PR blunders like the bobbleheads, trying to say, okay, 20,000 can come in, and then, all of a sudden we'll let everybody else have. What's a manipulation scheme to marketing that everyone's on now. They did the same thing with Mac Miller. The bobblehead thing is one thing, and then the bricks was worse. The Clemente sign.
One of the season is the Clemente sign. The Clemente logo that was replaced by an ad for a seltzer on the outfield wall.
Right. I mean, you have Ben Roethlisberger complaining about it.
To have the foresight. I don't know if they need, like, it's organizational. Like, Nutting is obviously the easy punching bag, and
he's also not going anywhere. So all we're doing is ranting on a show.
Yeah, Nutting's not going anywhere, and
he's not going anywhere.
Part of me believes he does want to play winning baseball, just he's not willing to put his means toward that.
Well, then you don't want
to. I would argue Nutting's biggest flaw is just hiring these flawed people. These Ben Cherington's been there 6 years. Neil Huntington. I didn't like Derek Shelton from the get-go, honestly. He wasn't good as a hitting coach in Cleveland. He gets a managerial chance years later down the line. Like, Clint Hurdle was the best Pirates manager in the since the turn of the century.
Since Jim Leland, 100%.
Yeah, since Jim Leland. Yeah. It's just...
I mean, if you want to have that debate, we'll do it for another show. Obviously, that's not for here. But I could argue that as much as Cherington's had a horrible regime, and this deadline shows it, and the managers have not been great in any way. Certainly, Shelton actually by win percentage, George, is one of the worst managers in baseball history. If you actually look at it,
I believe it.
Yeah. So it obviously was a bad decision. And he was really, really bad. And they should have fired him a year earlier, whether they could have got Francona or not. They should have fired him a year earlier. However, I do think most of the issue is Nutting. It is not Cherington. It is Nutting, because Cherington, again, he proved he can win. He proved he can win when he gets an owner who wants to win. He does have a ring. You can say it's not, he's done a horrible job. He has, but where's Nutting's positive part of his resume? Cherington has that from prior to getting to Pittsburgh. I think what really happened, and this is a conspiracy theory that some are now buying into.
Oh, wow.
I think Cherington kind of got hoodwinked. I think he went in there thinking that, okay, he was told, and what he's told us in media many times, and even early in his tenure, when we have a chance and when we have a window and an opportunity, kind of hint, when we get a Paul Skeens, it's what he said early on in his tenure, I then have, the authority that we will then go all in and invest. They have Skeens there. He's a Cy Young contender in year 2. They're worse now than they were in his rookie year when he also was great. This team looks worse than it was 3 years ago, even with McCutchen back. That's not even a feel-good story because McCutchen is now vocally pissed off. He's not happy. You say he's going to the Pirates Hall of Fame. I wouldn't be shocked if there's a year or 2 atonement period. He's not thrilled to death on what's going on there. He has vocally said through media, George, that he feels like he was lied to.
He's been pissed off since April,
too. Because he's not even getting to play that much, despite actually performing and hit. He hit a home run the other night. He's hitting better than anybody else on the team. And, again, he's upset. So everything just goes wrong with Pittsburgh and is going wrong this year more than any other year. But I don't believe that even though Cherington was told that he would get the ability to spend when they got a window, when they got a Skeens-like
I can
player.
believe that.
That
Yeah.
I think nothing in the back of his mind was never going to do that and hasn't done that. So as much as Cherington's done a poor job and the prospects he got are horrible, there's also a sense of what can you do if the owner tells you we're going to trade half the team, even though we want to win in the future, and we don't care there's years left on the deal, and we don't care what you get for them, and that's it. What is he supposed to do? I mean, honestly, the next course of action for him, since he's already won, he probably should quit. I mean, I don't, in all honesty. And again, I think Skeens should ask out, but we could do a rant on the Pirates every show here. They now have screamed everybody they don't care, so you shouldn't go to games anymore. That's what the fans should take from this. They should stop going. Skeens should ask out right now. And George, I will leave you kind of this redundant question for anybody listening in. Here's what I find hilarious about one of the worst trade deadlines in Pirates history. So they trade players with years left. They get nothing really for them. They shed money when there's no cap, and they prove they don't care about winning, even with a generational talent like Skeens. Yet, they hold on to Mitch Keller and, of course, Skeens, who they've now have already said they're not moving in the offseason, no matter what he wants, I guess. My redundant question is, again, if you don't care about winning, if you want to shed salary, if you're way out of the race now, and if you're going to trade players with years left on their deal, why? Why did they not trade Keller? They should have. I said they shouldn't move him because he had years left in his deal. Why rush it in my story, George? But if you're going to trade everybody else and get the 15th best prospect, they might as well have traded Keller. Why did you keep Keller? Why are you telling Skeens you won't move him? If you're not going to try to build and try to win, you're almost abusing these men. I don't know why. If you just go all in and be the Twins. If you're going to do this, you might as well do the Twins thing. That's what I'll leave you with. That's what I don't get. So as bad as this deadline was, and as much as the Pirates don't care, and they should scream to everybody still hanging around, this is arguably the most confusing deadline they've had. We've seen bad Pirate seasons where they traded everybody, but everyone knew that was coming, and it was a regular bad deadline. This is legitimately confusing. With Skeens there as a Cy Young contender. You are not trying to win. You are shedding salary with 3 years left on deals, and yet you're retaining a couple pitchers that are your best assets. If you want to actually say it's a new 5-year plan and I want to get a number one prospect again, those are the guys to move to get him. Not a struggling Hayes or a Bednar who's had a bad year or two in recent memory, and they didn't move those pieces. So it's almost like they're in the middle. They know they're not going to win, but they're not going to give up the guys that really could bring in talent. So what the hell are you doing? That's the problem with the Pirates. But yeah, kudos to certain franchises that decided to win. George is probably going to experience Bieber having a great inning or two in the postseason where the Blue Jays win a pennant, and that's just going to be the story. He'll turn it on somehow. That's just kind of how that goes.
Bieber. They did, Cy Young winner in Cleveland.
Right.
Was injured 2 years ago, came back last year. He was probably going to be traded last year. That was kind of known going into the season. A $10 million option that Cleveland exercised this season because in 6 games in, I think he ended up having Tommy John. So finally was at a rehab start in Northeast Ohio and just kind of, but didn't know. Good. Kudos to Shane. He gets to play for an organization that's got a lot of former Guardians up there too. Guys like Miles Straw and others up there.
And they're going for in the offseason. They may have contract issues, but they don't care. They want to go for it now because they know they can have a win. They have a window now, and there's more money there, but that's part of it too. When you have a window, whether you're a big or a small market, and it's certainly more necessary when you're a small market, you got to go. And having Skeens is a window. Like having Skeens, I don't know what else anyone needs to have it be a window in Pittsburgh. Having Skeens is a window, and the Pirates basically said no thanks to the window. But again, we could rant on the Pirates every show. Just for a quick aside, I do find it interesting that in the midst of this season of all this movement, you have an opportunity for 2025 to be an historic season in general. Not only Judge was earlier in the season chasing 400, which obviously had dissipated, but Cal Raleigh could at least get over Roger Maris and Babe Ruth, if you want to have like a non-steroid single season record, or the American League record that Judge surpassed a couple years ago. He's right on pace for that. Bonds is probably gone, but the single season record for a catcher is 48. He's certainly going to get that, even though now you could have a debate if it counts because he DHs a lot as well. But as a primary catcher, 48, he's going to get that. No primary catchers ever hit 50 in a single season, despite Hall of Famers, Piazza and Pudge. They never did it. He's going to do it. It's going to be funny that he's going to probably get the Mariners single season home run record over Griffey, which is 56.
56, yeah.
Griffey hit 56 in back-to-back years. Now, I will certainly argue that those 256 seasons are better than what Cal Raleigh's doing.
Sure.
Cal Raleigh's hitting 250 with the going to get 50 plus home runs. Griffey's 56 came in MVP caliber, MVP award, and gold glove both years. Actually, there at the time when Griffey had those seasons, only one player in baseball history hit 50 home runs in a gold glove year before Griffey did it, and that was Willie Mays. And it's only happened a couple times since Junior. One was A-Rod, but as an outfielder, it's just Griffey and Mays. So Mays did it once. Griffey, back-to-back years, had 50 plus in a gold glove year at center field. That's historic. He's the only one to do that twice, and was the only one since Mays to do it when he did it. But Kyle Raleigh right now, with Judge hurt, looks like a walk to be another Mariners MVP. I would imagine he's going to get that unless he really falls off. And he can hit these single season marks for sure. And
he's got two months, and to hit 10 home runs in each month on average would give him 62. So
yeah, and then you can have that debate all over again. I mean, when Judge surpassed it, that kind of was the debate at that point. I think at minimum, he's going to get the catching record. At minimum, he's going to get Griffey's record. He won the home run derby, which is kind of cool, kind of legitimize himself in this season. It is coming out of nowhere. I personally would probably stop letting him catch and would just make him a full-time DH to try to get these things, because it's harder as a catcher. You got to probably sit out some games. I would go fully all into the DH thing, but we'll see what that would do for the single season catching records. So you're still getting that. You're kind of getting a renaissance for some veteran pitchers that are still in it and still producing. And get Dave Parker finally goes in the Hall of Fame. Get Ichiro Sabathia goes in there. I mean, you had a nice Hall of Fame weekend. So there's a lot going on this year. It's going to be a special year nonetheless, no matter how it ends, even though it is marred by the albatross that are certain franchises like the Pirates. And, we won't go into it here, but speaking of Kutch, if you want to read about his Hall of Fame candidacy beyond the Pirates, I do have that story up, because he's a Pirates Hall of Famer for sure, but I don't think more. And I did compare to guys who basically got nothing in terms of percentage of the vote, and where you think Kutch will actually fall, because that's been a conversation here in Pittsburgh a lot. But yeah, I mean, the Pirates kind of embarrassed themselves, but a lot going on this baseball season to make it a special one nonetheless. And I don't think anybody had Kyle Raleigh on their bingo card even hitting 35 home runs, let alone getting over 60, as insane as that would be.
Speaking of albatross, the Dallas Cowboys, one of many teams that seemingly many teams that's undergoing some strife as training camps open across the NFL. We'll go lowest to highest denominator here in terms of things getting done and people being Pittsburgh. Shockingly, everything seemingly fine there as the Steelers have reported to camp with Aaron Rodgers as in his first full formal appearances with the team. The Washington Commanders have reported Terry McLaurin, their lead wide receiver, initially didn't show up, and he did show up, but he didn't practice. He was just kind of there in Ashburn. Now he has requested a trade from the Commanders. Is it a leverage ploy to get more money? I don't think the Commanders will actually trade him, but he's looking for a new deal. Is where, and it's escalated quickly.
I'm reporting that it's a leverage ploy.
Yeah. In Cincinnati, Trey Hendrickson, all-pro defensive end, sack leader last year, if memory serves correctly. He was looking for a new contract. He initially posted on Instagram as camp started. He was in Florida, it was a few days ago. And then suddenly now he has shown back up at Bengals camp in Cincinnati. So he's in Cincinnati, still waiting for an extension and a new deal himself. They're watching practice, called a hold in, hold out.
Yeah. Is this the new generation, the soft quitting?
Yeah,
we're millennials, but the younger generation
then just shows up
quitting, where you don't quit, you just show up and just do nothing, and they want to get rid of you. Then, so they obviously don't want to get rid of him, but he's doing the soft quitting.
Well, if I would quit, I would not show up personally. That's just
yeah. I mean, that doesn't make sense when you think about it. Like, if you're not going to show up,
I'm going to waste my time and energy to come here when I don't want to be here. Like, no.
Unless you want to do the George Costanza thing where you rub a jelly donut on Babe Ruth's uniform and just get yourself fired. Like, if you want to do that, okay. But yeah, the soft quitting, I guess, where you go in and just sit there, that does seem stupid. But that is this generation, and I guess we have a player soft quitting here.
Yes.
But I don't know, better for Cincinnati because they uncharacteristically, the Bengals normally in this mess the player would never get paid and it would be horrible. They did pay wide receivers that were up for deals. They listened to what Joe Burrow said. He's now healthy again. Offensively, they threw a lot of money. They're the only team with 2 wide receivers that got high price deals. The Steelers could have, but they traded Pickens away, so they just got 1. They were never going to pay 2. The Bengals are paying 2, and yet what are they going to do defensively? Because that's been their problem in recent years since winning the conference. They need a better defense, and now their best defensive player is clearly not being fully taken care of. So we'll see what happens there. But yeah, I don't know if is that soft quitting. We could,
I like the description. Yeah.
Okay.
Not soft quitting, but soft trade request, hard trade request. Michael Parsons has escalated his demands from waiting for a contract extension to now he wants a trade from Dallas. So slightly different situation where Cincinnati, you could argue, has this propensity, much like the Pirates of Mike Brown and company, of not being as forthcoming in the financial department. Jerry Jones willing to pay people, just he wants to do it on his own terms. Dak Prescott, Zeke Elliott, CeeDee Lamb, all these guys.
Dak's the damn highest paid quarterback in football.
Yeah, all these Cowboys, stars of the last 5-ish plus years. They seemingly eventually get the deal. It's just going to happen when Jerry wants to do it, maybe closer as camp kind of moves along, maybe closer to the start of the season, not before camp. And Parsons, like the other 2 people I've just mentioned, wants a new deal. We've now escalated it to a trade thing, but we've got kind of the added specter, Mike, of Jerry Jones, like publicly, throwing some shade at Parsons over the couple of months and everything leading up here. Said that I love this. Parsons,
his son threw some shade.
Yeah. Jones said that even if the Cowboys signed Parsons, it would not guarantee his availability because he, quote, could get hit by a car, which it's this very
good.
Precise. And it's the old, if so-and-so gets hit by a bus tomorrow, who will do his job? The generic.
Yeah. Or who's driving that car? Is that a car? Is Jerry Jones driving that car after paying him? Yeah, right.
And so Jerry and Stephen Jones, his son, who are running the team here. Jerry likes to do it on his terms. God, he looks older. I know he's old, but it looked like watched the video of the press conference a little bit. Looks even older than he did.
Yeah.
I don't know even how you would. It reminds me of the Myles Garrett thing, honestly. Like the Myles Garrett thing kind of happened. We forget about that now because we're in the throes of training.
No, but that ended favorably for the Browns.
Yeah, everybody's like, "Oh my God, football!" And like Myles Garrett wanted a trade, and he's like, "I want to win the Super Bowl. I love Cleveland. No longer this team sucks. We have no quarterbacks." And I'm paraphrasing. Obviously, he didn't say those.
And things. Where is he playing this year?
He's playing in Cleveland this year. Exactly. Right. Yeah.
It's a lot different. And I even said this at the time. This is my first reaction. The NFL is very, very different than the NBA. We know that in the NBA, George, if you are a star player of any magnitude, you don't got to be a Hall of Famer. If you are a star player of any magnitude and you don't got to be doing the James Harden where Daryl Morey's a liar. Can I say that again? Daryl Morey's a liar.
I love that.
That's the best.
He said Daryl Morey's a liar when he was in China. He was overseas at a appearance in China, and he was crapping on Daryl Morey.
Yeah, but he was at a Nike event. He did it on purpose. But
that's right. Yeah, it was a Nike event. Yeah,
but he wanted to make sure his international basketball was aware that this man's a liar, who he previously was friends with. And
I think it was in China. I apologize if it was, but all the Chinese people were just looking at him. Oh, he's like,
they were like
smack about Daryl Morey. It was just funny.
Yeah, and then he said it twice. So he was heard, and this is a guy who paid him before, but obviously he now feels lied to, and I guess he's better off than Daryl Morey right now, is trying to fix the Sixers, and he's got his money with the Clippers. But that's the peak. That is the peak, George. I would say that James Harden calling Daryl Morey a liar publicly and emphatically multiple times, repeating himself. That's the peak, if we're going to rank it here, of publicly trying to get yourself out. Right? That's the peak. The low end might be Micah Parsons throwing up a tweet here, but that's the peak. But in the NBA, the point is you don't have to go as far as James Harden. James Harden went the peak. He called Daryl Morey a liar.
The full Harden, yeah.
The full Harden. When you call the team president a liar, you're gonna get out of there. Like he made it clear, because that was right after some reports, if you remember, that the Sixers and Daryl Morey went on radio and was like, "We're gonna keep him," and he was like, "I don't think so. I'm gonna call you a liar publicly." So yes, that's the peak, the peak Harden. But in the NBA, George, you don't have to go peak Harden. You can put out a subtle message. You can whisper in Brian Windhorst's ear, "I want traded," and he'll put it on his podcast, and then you're out there aggregated. And guess what happens in the NBA, George? Every single time, if you want traded and you're a star player, you're going to get traded. Every single time. On this very show, we had multiple shows where we kept talking, how is Jimmy Butler going to get out of Miami? They didn't do him right there, but now he's being a jerk. There's no deal that works. Pat Riley said he won't take a deal that doesn't help them win. How is that ever going to work? And then every time we would do a show, or somebody else would do a show, Jimmy Butler would go out there somewhere and basically, ruffle some feathers and demand that he gets the hell out of there. And what happened? He got the hell out of there, and he's in a great situation. That is what happens in the NBA. I bring all that up to say, unfortunately for Micah Parsons and previously Myles Garrett, that is not what happens in the NFL. Because what happens in the NFL, when you're a star player, even if you are a future Hall of Famer, and you say you want out, whether you do it on social media, on someone's show, or through Adam Schefter or whoever, you know what happens? The Cleveland Browns, the Dallas Cowboys, Jerry Jones, whoever, they then go on some public forum and say, "I don't care, we're not moving you." And that's already what the Cowboys did. If you notice, to Diane Rossini, right after Micah Parsons' tweet, 3 minutes later, source from the Cowboys, they're not trading him. I almost guarantee one of the Jones texted her and was like, "We're not doing it, put it out there." That was a clear leak from the franchise, because they're not. And if I had to bet right now what team Micah Parsons is playing for in a month, it's the Cowboys, or he's not playing. They're not going to move him, because now if you try to move him, they're not going to get anything relevant for him. They're gonna get screwed in that deal. He is still one of the best players in football, and that team, while no one thinks is going to really deliver in the postseason, on paper, if Dak is healthy, he was not last year, should at least be a playoff team. The division's always wide open. They could be good, quote unquote good, and they wouldn't be without Parsons. But the problem with the Cowboys, and we'll get to the others in a moment here, Jerry Jones especially, this is why Dak Prescott is the highest paid quarterback. They are terrified to pay anybody, so they let everyone's deal linger on to where, okay, you're at this value right now, but now I'm not going to pay you. But then tomorrow, somebody at your exact same value gets more money, so now your value has spiked. I mean, they are horrible at simple economics. Like, if somebody says, "I want to be with you and I'm willing to sign a deal for this number," and you know they're a player you want to keep, waiting until someone else gets paid more of equal or lesser stature like that. After Myles Garrett and TJ Watt got their money, the money for Micah Parsons went up. They could have signed Micah Parsons last year, George, before Garrett and TJ Watt. But after Garrett and TJ Watt got paid, it's the same thing the Steelers messed up on, kind of. If you're going to bring back TJ, They had to give him $1 million more than Myles Garrett. If they would have done the deal before Myles Garrett, then they wouldn't have to pay as much. Right. So like they keep waiting. If you know you're going to keep, everybody knew the Steelers were never going to let that man go. If you know you're going to keep somebody, try to. If you want to save some money, you do it early. You don't do it later. But the Cowboys messed it up again. They're going to end up paying more for Micah Parsons than they really should have, and this is getting really, really ugly. I never thought he'd really ask out, but before we get into McLaurin, who is the one that's really my pet peeve right now, do you think there's a chance Micah Parsons is not on the Cowboys this year? Because I'm not buying it. Like, give me a percentage that he's not on that team.
Less than 10.
I don't even know if I want to go 10. I mean, I think if you want to talk about a stubborn man, and that's Jerry Jones, if he says he's not trading him, it's hard to believe he's going to cave on it.
$50,000 a day fine, I think, at some point. I don't know if that starts already without him participating or
you think he gets his deal? Is that why he eventually plays?
No, I think I think the Cowboys will make the deal just later this month. Yeah.
Just do it now. Why are we getting?
I know.
Why are we?
I'm not going to say he's secretly waiting for somebody to get injured, but like I think he's just like doesn't want to pay money to a guy in the preseason, and then God forbid he gets injured. But they don't play that much in the preseason anyway these days. So
if he would have signed him last year, he'd be paying him less annually because he would have been before Garrett and Watt. That's the problem. He let other guys at similar spots get paid before he pays. It's simple business that as smart as Jerry Jones is in building his business and the brand that is the Cowboys and what they're worth, these deals sometimes, I mean, Dak Prescott should not be the highest paid quarterback in football. He is, because they kept letting his deal linger. That's the problem there. But I will tell you, I expect this from the Bengals. They paid the wide receivers. They're still going to be good. I don't know if they're going to be great. I think they actually will end up bringing back who they have now, and it will be fine there as well. I really do believe that, oddly. They're putting a little bit more money in the team they normally do for Burrow, which they should. It's like the Pirates with Skeens. You're a small market, but this is the window when you have Joe Burrow. And I know the sports are different. And I do think Micah Parsons is going to be on the Cowboys or nowhere. They're not going to trade him, and he'll eventually get his money. The real topic here, George, and this is perfect to end the show on because it is the most asinine of all of these, in my opinion. If you want to give me the three and rank asininity here, for any new listener, this is an HBS staple. You want to rank asininity. Okay, the way that the Bengals are operating, they always do it. It's last. The Cowboys are handling Parsons horribly, but he's going to end up being there. That's just the Cowboys have been doing this forever as well. That's runner-up. The most asinine is what the Commanders, Washington, is doing with McLaurin. Number one, he is the most underrated receiver in all of football. All of football, the most underrated receiver the last 5 years. A consistent 1,000-yard receiver before Daniels got there. You now have a quarterback on a rookie deal who is your franchise guy who led you to a conference title game for the first time in 3 decades and gave you and your fans and that area that you live in, you know this, that area got success from professional football they hadn't had in 30 years. And you follow it up with one of his key targets now upset at you. You handle him poorly. You go back and forth. He says through the radio there that he feels lied to and he's a little upset. So even if you don't want to pay him, you don't got to lie to the man. He's been a great player for you. George, I get not wanting to pay wide receivers tons of money because you always can draft them. That's why the Steelers traded George Pickens. I get it. You can replace it. That's what the Steelers always do. You can replace the position. Don't waste a lot of money, even if he was good in the past. It's about the future. I get that argument that I do hear from some Commander fans. My counter to that is not now. They're on a rookie deal with the quarterback. This is the time, if you got to overpay a little bit, you do it. They legitimately could go for a championship right now. And if you win one, you're in forever with that fan base, probably. They have them in the past, but if you win one now, they're going to brag about it for 10 years. This is the time to hit it. You have a quarterback that had one of the greatest rookie seasons of all time. He's not on a big money deal. In 3 to 4 years, he will be on a gigantic big deal, and you'll have no more money for anybody else. But you can overpay a wide receiver. And if you want to try to do this, you can call McLaurin and say, look, We got a rookie deal situation. We don't want to get invested for 20 years. How about a 2 or 3 year extension? You go right to the end of the rookie deal with Daniels, and let's go give you a little bit more money and go for it. Maybe he would have done that, but to just ignore, he literally said he didn't hear from them for months. I mean, what are we doing? This is the time where they could be going for a title, and instead they're ghosting their top receiver, and they want to go penny pinch during the quarterback being on a rookie deal. This is not the time to do that for me. That's why this is the most annoying.
I'm going to talk out of both sides of my mouth here, in that I don't think Terry McLaurin is worth the money he's asking for. So at 19, he's in the final year of a contract.
You gotta look at his numbers, though. They're better than what people probably think they are.
19 million. I don't think set to make $19.9 million this year, and he's already gotten 2.8 million of that so far paid this calendar year. I think he has been a bright spot amidst the as you kind of, delineate there, the pre-Jaden Daniels era, where guys like Case Keenum and Ryan Fitzpatrick, and I think Mark Sanchez at one point as well, and others were throwing to him.
Third round. Want me to read the numbers? You got the numbers there?
Third round draft.
I got them right in front of me.
I don't have his numbers. No, go ahead.
Okay. I think it's relevant here because he's not in any way a Justin Jefferson or a Jamar Chase. I'm not saying that at all. I'm not saying give him $40 million a year. I know he wants a lot of money. I'm not saying that. I'm trying to compromise with him, but I want people to understand, because when you hear Terry McLaurin, George, no one buys his jersey. He's not in commercials. I bet you the casual fan thinks his numbers are worse than they are.
That's a fair point.
His rookie season was 2019. They were awful. He had 919 yards. The next year was his first 1,000-yard season. He has never since that time been below 1,000 yards. In 2020, he was at 1,118. Next year, 1,053. Next year, 1,191. Next year, 1,002 yards. Last year with Daniels, 1,096 yards. He's had 87 catches, 77 catches, 77 catches, 79 catches, and 82 catches last year. So he is coming off of 82 catches on 117 targets. That's a fantastic percentage. 1,000 yards plus 1,096 to be exact. And George, his problem that I know a lot of Commander fans were upset at earlier, prior to Daniels. Okay, McLaurin, you move the chains, but then you drop the ball in the end zone. I get it. 4 touchdowns, 5, 5, 4. I get that's early on. Last year, 13. Big jump up. Why? He got a legit quarterback.
Yeah.
So my point is, McLaurin could easily sit down with any fan in 2020, 21, 22, 23, when they all were saying he couldn't score touchdowns, and say, yeah, I can. It's the quarterback that sucks. Look at my yards. I get a legit quarterback, and I have 13 touchdowns. He scored last year. There is nothing to pick apart on his numbers in terms of his stats. And those numbers might not be worth $40 million a year. I do believe they're worth more than 19 mil if you look at market value.
30 seems like a nice.
Well, that's $11 more million than what he's getting.
Yeah, I don't think he's Justin Jefferson money. I think 30. I think $30 million in actual extension. He is 30 years old. The numbers you gave there, if I drag them out and like an Excel spreadsheet and extrapolate them,
hell, he's a borderline Hall of Famer.
He's a borderline Hall of Famer. Yeah,
5 more years. I mean, he's already
borderline. It would be like 10 straight. If you give me 10 straight 1,000-yard seasons and somewhere between like 8 and 12 touchdowns a year, like those are borderline Hall of Fame numbers.
And especially because he's probably going to have some playoff success with Daniels. He's still young. Daniels is young. And George, by the way, to add this in, Terry McLaurin is 29 years old. He is still not even 30. He is still not 30.
Yeah, apologies. I think he turns 30 during the season. I must have read.
He's like his birthday is in September.
Yeah,
he's likely going to play, I would say, another 4 years. I'm not saying he's going to be a Hall of Famer like, we're joking. I'm not saying he's going to play another decade. However, in my opinion, and it's proven by the facts, it is a safe bet, I will say. Nothing's a guarantee. As Jerry Jones put it, Terry McLaurin can get hit by a car tomorrow. But I think it's a safe bet that with Daniels being there and so young, would you not say, George, it's a safe bet that on his age and who's the quarterback, that if Daniels was doing that with Case Keenum and those guys, that it's likely a safe bet if you give him a 3 or 4 year deal for $30 million apiece, that he is going to have equal or better numbers the next several years. It's not like he's going to have 800 yards next year when he had 1,000 plus the year before.
Correct.
So you are paying for this production that I just read. And again, I'll let you finish your side here, but what I want to make clear as well, you know, you're saying that you would counter to him if he wanted 40 and you would say, how about 30? Now, off of what he is saying, we got to take him at face value. I'm not claiming to have sources off of, to counter what he's saying. He claims, George, he did not hear from them with any offer for months on end. So he is saying that what you're doing of trying to counter with him and have him take a little bit less is not what they're doing. And they ghosted him from February until July. Do you not admit that even if you don't want to pay him the 40, ghosting him from February to July is insane?
And has put Adam Peters and the Commanders they're in a box here, which,
because he's publicly saying this now,
which to the point that I don't think he's worth the Jamar Chase 40 million, whatever. I think you could get away with 30 there, but the Commanders have now put themselves in a situation, especially it's funny. The success of the team has now given McLaurin the leverage. If for some reason let's say they're a 7 or 8 win team, better, great. Okay, we have a young quarterback, blah, blah, blah. No, they made the damn NFC Championship game.
Yeah, so nobody would have been mad off an 8-win season. Nobody would have
been mad off an 8-win season, and maybe you got some wiggle room, be like, hey, Terry, we think we can take this to the next level and heights and whatever with Jaden. Now we can structure.
We need you to take less, all that other
So they bring in Deebo Samuel. So if in an era we pretend Terry McLaurin, let's say we did week 1 and he's not starting, whatever, it's still sitting out.
Right.
They brought in Deebo Samuel. Unfortunately, you could argue that Deebo Samuel, with the way he gets banged up, A, he's a different type of receiver, and B, is near the end of his trajectory.
He's not more reliable.
They didn't draft. They took a kid from Virginia Tech in the 4th round, wide receiver. Other than that, so they did not do, to your point, like in the interim since surprise NFC Championship run, and now they didn't do anything to shore up. They bring in Deebo Samuel, but they didn't do anything if they were even thinking about moving on from McLaurin to replace him at number 1. Deebo Samuel's not a replacement for him as wide receiver 1. So now the Commanders have boxed themselves into this position that after the success, even just as a security blanket for Jaden Daniels in year 2, they should have shored up Terry McLaurin in April.
The point is, George, if this is 5 years from now and you have a almost 30-year-old receiver and you have to pay Daniels, because they will eventually have to pay Daniels, then I can entertain the conversation of you don't spend big money on a wide receiver. You can replace his production. He's not Justin Jefferson. He wants too much money. He won't come down to 30 million. I can entertain all of that. Again, Daniels is on a rookie deal. This is the time. If they want to model and compare themselves, what they should be looking at is what the Seattle Seahawks did 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Russell Wilson's probably going to be a Hall of Famer someday based on his overall numbers. Is he really a Hall of Fame quarterback? Not really. His end of his career has been rough, but he built up a Hall of Fame caliber resume because his early days with Seattle, the team was so good and they had so much around him. Why? He wasn't getting big money and they spent it everywhere else. And he's a very similar player as well. The Commanders could be doing the same thing. And the funny thing is, because you bring up Deebo Samuel, I wonder if the casual fan would know this. So Terry McLaurin has 6 1,000-yard seasons, George, right? 6 consecutive, including last season of 1,096. How many do you think your boy Deebo Samuels has?
Call him my boy. I don't like Deebo. I beat the Packers.
How many do you think Deebo Samuel has in his whole career? Deebo Samuel.
1,000-yard seasons in his whole career?
Yes.
My first number was 2, but I'm only going to say 1 because he's like an 800, 900-yard kind of guy. He's not a 1,000-yard guy.
He has 1.
Uh-huh.
It is funny because that 1...
The Super Bowl year?
Well, it's when they went, but it's a monster year. He had 1,405 yards. Like, it's a monster year.
Okay.
He had a monster season. But this is Deebo Samuel in his career, okay? He also, this is a good comparison. They're different receivers.
Yeah.
But he's 29 years old, the same age as McLaurin.
Yep.
He also started in 2019.
Yep.
McLaurin had 900 plus yards his first year. Samuel had 800 plus.
Mm-hmm.
Then he got hurt a lot with 300 plus receiving yards. 1,405 is just a catastrophic, monster season that everyone that really overrated him.
Mm-hmm.
Then people think he got hurt all the time. Here's his games played: 13, 15, and 15 after that 1,405, 14.
That's the bulk.
105. Yeah. So like that's the bulk. It's not like he's playing 2 games a year. That's the bulk. 632, 892. And last season he played 15 games. Terry McLaurin, George, played 16, 1 game difference. McLaurin had 1,096. Deebo Samuel played 15, 51 catches, 670 yards.
Yeah.
And 3 touchdowns.
He's a 600, 800 yard a year guy.
If you don't have McLaurin, your offense goes in the tubes. And I'm not saying Daniels cannot elevate, but here's the issue, because I hear this too from people in DC media or DC fans. Well, Daniels can make up for not having a top receiver because he's a runner. All of that. That is not going to work every year. That is not going to work every year.
Less assets isn't better than more assets. Last time I checked.
You know what you want to look at? Here's another team in the DMV you can look at for a comparison. Just ask Lamar Jackson how that went down. Lamar Jackson early in his career was doing the same thing. Hit the ground running. They kept whittling away the wide receivers. Oh, Lamar can handle it. He would start getting banged up. Now they're getting wide receivers to help him, and he's making deep playoff runs, and he's still not getting over the hump, but he's having more success in the postseason now. He's getting they're finally giving him wide receiver help the last couple of years. This is not the time. The whole conversation, George, which is why this is the most asinine for me, the entire topic of, well, Daniels can overcome or we can spend elsewhere, to me, is almost non-intelligent to bring up here, because this is a rookie deal for a quarterback. And number 2, asking a quarterback to do more than arguably the greatest rookie season in history with Ben Roethlisberger. That's the debate, is 1-2. Him and maybe I throw Marino in. That is how great Daniels' rookie season was. I'm not even exaggerating. You now want to take away talent, give him a similar age player that gets banged up more, that is not nearly as productive, cannot take the top off the defense. He's a chain mover. McLaurin can do it all.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we could argue that McLaurin is a 1. You say he's not getting 1 money. His numbers and his agent would tell you he's a 1. He has 1 money. He has 1 numbers. So my point is, this is not the time to take away from Daniels, make him do more, or to go cheap when he's on a rookie deal. And the fact that the Commanders are doing this is insane. And if I had to bet, I would predict that McLaurin's going to be on that team this year and he'll get some money. But here's what I hope. And I like people in the DMV. I'm happy for the Commander's success. I rooted for him against the Eagles. I liked it. I hope he holds out and refuses to play those first 4 games or something, because they deserve it. This is ridiculous. Mm-hmm. And the fact that this is not unanimous against this franchise is a bit odd to me. I get that there are a lot of the fans who are upset about the Daniel Snyder regime, and they just want to love this regime so much. But George, this feels like this regime, the regime everyone likes, they're screwing this up. I don't get this. I don't understand this. I really don't. Unless they didn't draft the top receiver. Like maybe that was coming. What's the difference for you, for the Commanders, with or without McLaurin? If he would actually say, I'm going to miss games, what does that do for the team?
You can't.
I mean, he's not a Hall of Famer, but this is a good receiver, to say the least.
And they don't have a. McLaurin is the closest guy to this. And I don't want to, I'm not cramping on his speed, but he's not an over-the-top guy per se. He does a lot of things for Washington. He's more of a downfield guy than Deebo Samuel.
He's literally Art Monk, if you want to compare to.
I had this conversation with friend of the program Ryan, and I'm like, I think he's basically I think it's very recency bias, because Art Monk's going to be have his number retired at the Commanders opener. And another guy that's on Hall of Fame, Pro Football Hall of Famer, but I think Art Monk goes unheralded because he kind of played in that weird, like late 80s, early 90s.
He retired with all the records before.
Retired with all the records.
And he wasn't a first ballot guy. He had to wait.
Yeah, unless you're like a real football nerd about that kind of like lost era of the 80s and early 90s, like between the strikes and the lockouts and things like that. You don't know who Art Monk is unless you're a student of the game. And no, I told him I was like he kind of feels like Art Monk to me. So he's very
He's
especially
very
in that
Art Monk.
town, very very Art Monkish in the district. But no, if you lose a dimension to the offense because again, he's not
Although I just looked something up that's really funny. Okay, so he's Art Monk. 1, 2, 3.
You can count the same number of 1,000. Yeah.
McLaurin has more. McLaurin has 6.
McLaurin has more. Yeah.
Art Monk had 5. And Art Monk was a Hall of Fame receiver.
Yeah.
That's just, and it's a different era, obviously, more yards now. But no, I think Art Monk's a perfect example. 100%.
Art Monk's a really good example.
He's similar to Art Monk. Very popular amongst the fan base. They all loved him. He was never going to go anywhere.
His two best options are beyond, passing wise. It's Debo and I guess Zach Ertz. You
can't beat Debo and Zach Ertz. It cannot be.
So I like your point about you've had 6-7 months since the end of the Super Bowl or at least the end of the playoffs. You had the opportunity to lock this in, and like DK Metcalf, for example, if you wanted to pay $30 million, but the Steelers are paying him $30 million, he would have been available at a time before the Steelers signed him.
And he's a similar compared, consistent. He's better than Deebo Samuel if you look at the numbers. I'd rather have him. A little bit older, but he is a consistent player. Like this is what this actually we should maybe give the Steelers some flowers here. They haven't made all the time great decisions, but in terms of this, they decided, I guess, like the Commanders. We're not sure about paying our current receiver because George Pickens for them was a malcontent. And I guess they think Terry McLaurin's overrated is clearly what the Commanders believe. So the Steelers said, okay, we're not going to give big money to George Pickens. What are we going to do instead? We're going to get DK Metcalf in here. He's certainly older, but he's very consistent. We're not going to pay him Justin Jefferson money, but we're going to give him more of that 30 range, and he's going to love it, and he's going to be great, and he's going to be a productive player with a veteran quarterback. And unlike the Steelers, who have to spend all this money on TJ and who knows about their future because Rodgers is going to retire after a year or so, the Commanders are even in a better situation. They were better last year. They have a franchise quarterback already there. He's on a rookie deal. They don't have to spend money all over the place. It can all go to McLaurin if they want to, and they're still going cheap. And I'm not telling them to waste money and give McLaurin $45 million, but I do not understand. Especially when you have Magic Johnson's influence there and that he's a former Hall of Fame player. How do you not talk to, unless you think McLaurin's a liar? I mean, that has to be the opinion there.
No, yeah. They've boxed themselves in, and McLaurin has all the leverage now because the team went to the NFC Championship game, because they haven't done anything in the past whatever months, and now because you have a fan base where you've done this Adam Peters GM / Josh Harris ownership leadership group ownership group has done everything right. They just we'll throw this out here to add. They just got the DC Council passed in a 9-3 vote, $300+ million package to bring the Commanders to prepare the RFK site, which has been sent by the transferred over in a deed by the federal government's National Park Service land where RFK Stadium sits, the ancestral home of Washington football, to the district. And now the plan will move forward, and it's a significant day because whenever the groundbreaking happens, which in theory will be in the next few months potentially, they are now on track to get a new stadium with a roof open in Washington, D.C. to bring the Commanders back from Maryland by 2030. It's an extremely significant day in the history of DC sports.
And as much
never
as
thought they were going to come back, and so you have all that good momentum, and now
that should happen. As much as it's Maryland's in the DMV, they should be in the district.
God, love Maryland. Go there.
Maryland doesn't need two teams. They're the Ravens. Like they have the Ravens.
Stadium sucks. It sucks getting out there. The Beltway sucks. The whole thing sucks. Nobody wants a stadium in Maryland. Sorry, Westmore. Sorry, everybody. Nobody wants it there. Nobody wants it in Virginia. Also, I love Virginia, but nobody wants it in Virginia either.
They should be 100%. I mean, they should be in the district. They're going to be in the district, and even separately from that. Obviously, there's a whole nother conversation we could have that we're not going to do now on the name of the team, but they've been able, what I'm going to say about this current regime, they've been able to, and say what you want about the Commander's name, because I don't love it, but they've been able to not get in a political firestorm despite the president trying to tell them what to do. They've been able to kind of hold the line. They've been able to not have, they're in DC. They could clearly, even just walking down the street, it's not the same as what's going on when he brings up how Cleveland should be the Indians again, because they're not there. They're not a political franchise. Obviously, Washington is because they're right there, and people that are on both sides of the aisle in Congress are potentially Commanders fans. So it's right in front of Trump's face.
Yeah.
And for him to keep saying it, a weaker ownership may cave, or else
Correct.
you're saying things publicly. And again, I don't think that was even handled great. I don't love the Commander's name. There are other
Dan
names.
Snyder. Dan Snyder responsible for how clunky that was.
Right. And I would have been down with Red Hawks. Like, there were other names that I think actually would have worked better. And I think would have been, people would have unanimously approved of. We could even have a whole nother thing on. It's very weird to me how some people that are I do think people have politicized the Redskins thing, where as much as maybe the name needed change, they've taken it to make it part of a political position when they weren't doing it earlier in their life, when it was the same name. I think it's been abused and politicized a little bit too much. Again, that could be a debate for another day. My props is they're not getting into the mud with the president about this, but I don't think there's anybody that can argue that, unfortunately, George, the name of the team, where they're going to play, it's all great. The most important thing is winning football games.
Successful football team. Yeah.
And what they're doing, they're fine everywhere else in terms of winning football games. They hit in a draft pick. What else have they done in terms of winning football games? They hit in a draft pick. Mm-hmm. They've not done much to build around. You could argue they didn't have that much last year, and they kind of hit lightning in a bottle.
Mm-hmm.
Terry McLaurin, now they're ghosting, and he's their top talent. They are not helping the on-field product.
Yeah, Laramie Tunsil comes in the offseason, is somebody they probably will sign long-term.
Sure.
They believe the Debo thing is a good move. I think he's probably toward the end of his good years more than the middle of them. No, you've boxed yourself into that. You have to keep Terry McLaurin in terms of, because of the results you engendered, because you waited too long, and because you've got the fan base now where you want them, which is interested in your team, which it had not been for the last 5 years until Peters and Harris got there.
The entire Washington fandom was basically split in. They all wanted rid of the Snyder regime. Some wanted the team obviously to stay the Redskins. Some wanted the team's name to change. George, anytime anyone would talk about Washington, the conversation was rarely about football. It was all about politics. It was always about the name of the team. It was about Snyder. What did we do all of last season? Now, I know Trump's bringing it up now, but all of last season, very rarely did anybody talk about the name of that team. They were talking about Daniels having a great year, and they're winning football games, and they're in the NFC title game, and people that we know that are Commanders fans that were dealing with having to, arguments with fellow Commander fans about the damn name of the team for decades on end. Last year, people that liked the Redskins name, people that hated the Redskins name, they joined hands, got to a bar, got drunk, and watched the team win. And that was great. They weren't arguing about the team name for a season. They're just watching the team win. If you start losing some games, you're going to get back into the mud again. And I also think now you're in this divide on people picking, I'm with the franchise? Am I with McLaurin? McLaurin is forcing this to be a side thing because he is going on radio saying that they're not talking to me. I didn't get this offer they're saying I got. I think that is part of the issue, and I don't blame him, but I think he figured out what you're saying. I have the leverage, so I'm going to be a dick, for lack of better description. I didn't get a call for so long. I have the numbers. I think he feels, and he said this, that he doesn't get enough respect for the numbers he does put up. And again, they are in a corner. They got to pay him. But it's a little baffling to me that they would handle this so poorly when they have handled other things well. I mean, it's just odd. I mean, could you imagine, is 2030 a guarantee they're going to be a winner at that time? I mean, who's Daniels throwing to then? He'll be on the team. I mean, that's not that far off at this point. They should be really, really good next year. It's wide open again, but you're not going to be better off without McLaurin.
Correct.
And this is the time. So, and they have nobody else to get now. So this is just, it's utter madness. I guess.
Done. Yeah.
So I guess, I mean, as weird as it is, and as we've talked about this now at the end of the show, Parsons and McLaurin who is more likely to stay on their current team and who is more likely to not play for their current team? Or do you think they both end up playing a full season of regular production on a good team next year, despite all this drama, which actually is where I lean, as insane as that sounds?
That your morning line favorite is the term I was looking for, horse racing, is they both end up on the team. I'll give you that. I think McLaurin would be traded before Parsons, because if Dallas trades Parsons, they cease to have a functioning defense at that point. Basically, like the whole thing is keystoned around Micah Parsons.
And Jerry Jones is more stubborn. He's not going to he's just
Yeah.
a stubborn dude. Yeah.
It's like if the Bills do not have Josh Allen, they might be a 5-win team. If the Cowboys didn't have Parsons, they would.
Well, the Bills are the example. They traded Stephon Diggs when he became a little bit of a problem.
Sure,
and then
but
they ended up
Josh
having a
Allen.
better year. You had
Yeah.
Josh Allen. Yeah. Yeah.
But I think Peters could. The Steelers have cap room. I keep hearing the Steelers come up in this. I don't think they'll do it at this point, but they're like, well, according to the Steelers, they got cap room, and I don't think.
But they're not going to do that.
I don't think
then they'd have to pay two receivers big money. That would be. Insane.
I think Patriots are another one just because of Mike Vrabel's ties, obviously Buckeye. And he might have been. I don't have it on off the top of my head. He might have been on the staff there at Ohio State when McLaurin was in school. Maybe not, but both Buckeyes, obviously. So there are more. Not that there wouldn't be landing spots for Micah Parsons, but just Dallas defense would collapse, just complete collapse.
I just don't get how the Commanders are good without McLaurin, because they're not going to get a receiver.
I agree with you, but in theory, they believe that there's a path forward with a Deebo Samuel led wide receiver corps. So
because they probably think Daniels can do the Josh Allen thing, but it's not like you should make a guy do that in his second year. I mean, Josh Allen's was MVP of the league. I know Daniels is great, but this is not the time to be messing around, and they're messing around. And, if McLaurin is doing this for leverage, good job.
Shout out to him. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's what I would say, because the reason why he can do this for leverage now, even if he doesn't want to leave, the reason why he can do this for leverage is because, again, from February to July, they didn't offer him a deal. They could have offered him something anywhere in there. They had to know that he wanted a deal, that he feels he's underrated. His numbers are what they are. It's almost like, George, it almost feels like, and obviously they want to win, and it's winning mindset people. And I just told you everything that I think brought the fan base back together when they were worrying about the team name for so long, when they won last year. But it's almost like that winning last year effed up the damn timeline for the ownership. Because it's almost like the ownership was thinking, okay, I get in there. If I win 8 games with a rookie, I'm Lord and Savior. All I got to do is not abuse anybody in the office. And, I change the team name. We'll go back to RFK, get in the district. I'm already a better owner than Daniel Snyder based on just the politics alone and PR. And we'll build a winner slowly but surely. When we get a veteran player, we're probably not going to pay gigantic money because we're building, and no one's going to be too mad. We're building. We don't have to be a championship contender for 2 or 3 years when we got a rookie. And then all of a sudden, Daniels takes them to the NFC title game in year 1, and it's like you need to hit the ground running and do this now. And it kind of effed up their timeline. It almost feels like that they almost would have preferred McLaurin to drop off in production with a better quarterback and to not win last year, because then this would be easier. But because they won last year, this is the freaking window. It's a rookie deal. This is the window. And at the very least, they're handling this poorly, but I do think he'll eventually get his money. But McLaurin, I'm with you, man. I feel your pain. I don't get it either.
HBS stand with your McLaurin.
and I need a standing ovation for that man when he plays his first game back with the Commanders, or whatever one people want to call him. If there's one person that boos, I need get me on the phone right then.
HBS, we're with you.
Because I don't. Yeah, this is wild. Yeah, you should start polling the audience of anyone booing if they know how many South New York seasons he has, because it's got to be higher than what people think. This is just madness, but I do think everyone's going to still be on the same team. But I guess for the offseason, at least Cowboys wise, I thank you to Micah Parsons and the Cowboys and Jerry Jones and company for providing this entertainment for all of us, because this is normally kind of a little bit of a down period. Everyone's just playing football and preparing for football, and not the Cowboys, of course.
That we'll put a nice bow on this edition of the Howitzer and Buzzsaw Show. A reminder to find us wherever you get your podcasts on Apple, Google, TuneIn, Spotify, and more. Just search Howitzer or Howitzer Buzzsaw to find us. A shout out as well to Kellenby-Kindly, whose music you hear right here each and every time on the HBS. Check out -universe.com for all of his work.
You can find us throughout social media at Gerbo3, at Mike Austin 11, at Howitzer Buzzsaw for the show handle. Again, you can find us everywhere you get your podcasts. And if you can't find us, you're just not trying hard enough. Because again, a quick Google search can make it happen for you. So even though summer is ending, though, there's a lot to talk about. So the sports calendar is heating up as the weather remains hot. Even though I'm losing my summer, I can get reinvigorated with the sports calendar at least.
This has been another edition of the Howitzer and Buzzsaw Show, where we conquer deadline day, hold-ins and holdouts, and sports radio.
One day at a time.